again, and welcome to the Author Roundup. This special segment of the Book Connection Show showcases emerging indie authors who join us for a discussion of their newly published books. Join us for a conversation with our next guest author. Hello there, welcome to the show. My name is Emma, and I will be your host for this episode of Author Roundup. I have author Thomas Goddard with me today. Thomas is an award-winning actor, designer, author, and story coach, as well as a devoted father of 5. After 2 divorces and many hard-earned lessons, he turned his journey into a mission to help dads show up with authenticity, presence, and courage, and he now leads betterinthrees.com. Based in Tennessee, Thomas collaborates with fellow creatives to help people share stories that foster connection and healing. He is here to discuss his book, 5 Seconds That Changed Everything, a secret weapon every dad needs in his arsenal. Hi, Thomas. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So your book came out last year, correct? End of
Yes.
last year? Okay.
Yep.
All right. And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, absolutely. 5 seconds. I'll just refer to it as 5 seconds instead of the whole title.
Yeah.
It's the book. It's the book I needed when my family didn't look the way I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
I've been divorced twice, and I've sat in that car after my girls have departed with their mother, and the car is empty, dropping them off and staring at those empty seats.
Mm-hmm.
I've laid awake at 2 a.m. recounting all of the different things I could have done different,
Yeah.
wondering if my limited time was going to be enough for them. This book is about what I discovered in those moments,
Mm-hmm.
before and after them as well. I realized that fatherhood doesn't fall apart in big dramatic explosions. It shifts in small, unguarded seconds. Moments matter, and the 5 seconds before I react, before I
Mm-hmm.
defend myself, before whatever happens, before I check out emotionally. It's in those seconds that we make choices. And that pause became my secret weapon. This
Mm-hmm.
book is me handling that weapon more effectively, and then teaching other dads how to identify that single weapon with their own life, especially the ones who uh, think they've already messed up.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously a lot of raw moments in your book.
Yeah.
Would you call this, or what can readers expect to get from your book as far as like style? Like, is it a memoir or is it like a survival guide or a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. That's a great question. It's designed, each chapter is like a short story. So I
Okay,
tell each
nice.
chapter is a lived experience from really 3 quadrants of my life. It's a quadrant is 4, but really 3 sections of my life. The first section is I don't know what the blank I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and just those moments of I am new to this, I am knee deep in something I'm not equipped for. What am I going to do? The
Yeah.
second section is I'm starting to figure it out. I'm getting a little more confident here. And then the third section is I absolutely love the life that I have now.
All
And so
right.
that's the guide. But each one is yeah, it's an individual story in which I
Mm-hmm.
pull out a key component, and then at the end of that chapter apply it from more of a workshop standpoint, skill set development, growth.
Okay. And so you would say it's more like a survival guide than like a parenting manual. And what is the difference between those two?
Oh yeah. It's definitely not a manual. It's not a workbook. But it's all narrative. You're
Yeah.
gonna laugh. You'll cry. You'll experience your own life experience in this. And but yeah, each chapter gives you just one more nugget of how to use that weapon to be the best dad, or honestly parent. I have
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 women that have read this and expressed, this is, you wrote this to me. I know you're talking to dads, but you just hit the nail on the head with me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really more of that type of book.
Mm-hmm. And so your message speaks to, single dad or can speak to single dads, stepdads, divorced fathers, and even dads, seeking redemption, maybe. Why was it important to make this tool accessible to every kind of dad?
Because there are a lot of men out there that disqualify themselves from second chances.
Mm,
I'm speaking to the dad, all of those guys that have been through divorce, but Some of them haven't. They just know they weren't the dad they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And this book is to them. And for guys that are struggling with single parenthood because of a divorce, I'm not just speaking to those dads that are just fantastic and they did all of it right. I'm speaking to the guys
Yeah.
that they're the reason the divorce happened. They're
Okay.
the reason why their kids are in a broken home.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, dads that
Mm-hmm.
are, older,
Mm-hmm.
adult children,
Mm-hmm.
they realize they weren't who they wanted to be. There, it's never too late. It's never
Yeah.
too late to grab those 5 seconds and make the best of them.
Yeah. And so is this more of like you would say that it's like ha once you have kids, that's when like a connection with your partner or the relationship kind of suffers be not necessarily because of kids, but obviously like the timing of it. Is that what you're like referring to as far as missteps with dads?
Um,
Or
I'd say all of the above.
okay.
One of the
Hard.
targets that I talk about in the introduction is dads that haven't become a dad yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's impending. Maybe even they're just newly married, or maybe they're just considering, do I even want that kind of a life?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ultimately, it's to all of the above.
Okay. And so you talk about fathers navigating impossible terrains. What do you think is the biggest um, silent struggle or just struggle in general that men face, in fatherhood today?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, I would have to just speak from my own experience, although I do
Right.
work with a number of men.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the fear of not being enough, the fear
Yeah.
of not being enough for the situation, for the conflict, for the good times, not being enough for the moments that matter with my kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you said that you worked with, a lot of fathers, or you do work with a lot of fathers now. Is there anything else that like dads come to you with that they really like struggle with? Just curious.
Um, yeah, I think one of the biggest struggles that men will have in this kind of situation is how to navigate the co-parenting um, ecosystem that is
Oh,
so
like
different.
after the divorce
Yes.
or okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Okay.
If they're
Yeah,
dealing with a co-parenting situation, just because the marriage ended doesn't mean the relationship's over. It just
true.
changed, it
Yeah,
morphed. And that's probably the number one most common struggle that men uh, express to me,
that's fair.
for whether it's guidance or coaching,
Yeah.
is how do I, navigate this new relationship with my ex
Mm-hmm.
while I'm keeping my own dignity, honoring hers, but not
Mm-hmm.
letting the kids get in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest, most common struggle that men have.
Mm-hmm. And so, so the 5 second or 5 second shift, what, without giving away, the entire framework of your book, what is the
Yeah.
5 second shift and why is it, um, effective, immediately effective?
Hmm. When I was looking back at the crisis seasons that I write about in this book,
Mm-hmm.
divorce, tension, distance, rebuilding,
Mm-hmm.
recovery,
Mm-hmm.
I realized something humbling. The thing that helped me the most was something that I'd been doing instinctively all along. It just was more reactive. It wasn't intentional. And that's
Mm-hmm.
pausing, recognizing in the moment what's
Mm-hmm.
happening in my body when tension rises. What am I reaching for in that moment? I want to feel better and relief, and being able to channel that intentionally into my kids instead of into things that don't work as much. I'm also a recovering addict. I've struggled with addiction in my life. My second book is actually about that. And
Okay.
there's a lot of that theme in this book, not talking addiction, but talking about the pause that we need to make intentionally in the moment when stress rises or when there's
Right.
just distractions. You come home after a long day. I'm thinking of my youngest right now, and she was not very old when her mom and I divorced.
Mm-hmm.
She was very clingy, in those days to come, and there was no reason for it. She just needed that security that daddy was there. And
Right.
of course, it's going to come in the moment when I have the least amount of time or energy or capacity to be able to do what she needs and give her what she needs. So It's
Yeah.
those moments that recognizing, what helped me is something that was there all along. I've just found a way to make that more intentional, and that's when it becomes a weapon.
Yeah. I like what you said about like the pausing, because pausing in general just like has so many good, or there's so many instances where pausing is so much better than reacting, like you mentioned. That's a really
Yeah.
good, yeah, tip in itself. Um, so you mentioned a little bit about fathers that, feel like they've already made irreversible mistakes, whatever those mistakes may be. And so, how does this tool or your book really help them, begin again? Like, what motivates them? What makes them, feel like they still have it in them to, be the best version of themselves?
Hmm. I think it starts in that pause because one of the biggest things I write about, and this is more of an indirect narrative, is the the capacity of moving forward after crisis.
Mm,
For me, it was divorce and single
mhm.
parenting. For a lot of guys, it may be something totally different than that. But being
Yeah.
able to really look within, and this is something that men, I will, as a member of that demographic, I'll call us all out on that. Men have a more difficult time with being vulnerable to themselves, and I'm
Hmm.
talking about just simple looking in the mirror. And I think it's because we live in that shame society where people look at you and say, okay, divorce, well, that must mean XYZ, or that addiction, that must mean XYZ. It could just be the culmination of the struggle of an individual life, and he just can't catch a break. And
Yeah.
he reaches for things that gave him relief in the moment, but didn't end up. They ended up costing too much in the long run. Guys
Hmm.
like that are oodled throughout the readers that that I write to, and
Hmm.
being able to structurally, intentionally use a simple framework of just the moment that I'm in to be able to look at the mirror a little bit more, know who I am and what's happening in my body and my mind. That gives me agency. That gives me
Hmm.
choices that I didn't have before because I wasn't even aware of them.
Yeah.
And more importantly, that gives a man the framework that's not based on shame, blame, or guilt, but it's based on agency and reliability. Because ultimately, I think I'm not sure I've ever met a dad that loves being a dad, that it's being a dad is important to that man, that reliability wasn't at the top of his priority list that he wanted for himself, is
Hmm.
to matter and to be
Yeah.
reliable.
Yeah. So there is this statistic that came to mind just now about millennials and millennial fathers. Like that millennial fathers are like way more involved with like their kids and things now than they were, before. Do you believe that to be true? And what is it about your book that you believe that, yeah, millennial dads are like more involved and they're sharing more of like the responsibilities like 50-50, um and they care more maybe than other fathers in the past, or like maybe this topic is like so important because of that statistic.
Hmm. I honestly hadn't heard that statistic.
Oh,
I
really?
see, yeah, thank you for that. Um, I see trends right now that more and more men are coming out and saying, I'm not sure about this. I don't know about this. I need help with this.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's a male female issue, I'm actually of the mindset that I don't think we're expected in a marriage to give 100%. There are some days that I have 80%, and there's
Hmm.
some days that I have 25%.
Yeah.
And it's the days that both of us have less than 50% that we need to have a conversation about how we're going to get through that day without killing each other.
Yeah.
And again, all of
True.
this is what I'm talking about, is pausing in the moment and employing that same thing that I talk about. But
Yeah.
um, the trend that I see, to speak to your statistic, is the younger dads, and I'd say probably dads that are 22 to 35 today. They are more, I think they're more readily what's the word I'm looking for, aware of um, the discrepancy of being in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm a member of Gen X, and we pretty much call it like it is, regardless of whether or not it hurts your feelings. That's our generation. We're definitely not helicopter parents by and large. But I think we've seen that demographic of children that from a very young age, their cell phone teaches them more than their dad.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest things that I see men standing out and stepping into in my work. Don't see it enough. We have a lot of work to do, but I want my children, and I have 5 daughters. Uh,
Girls. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
and I'm remarried. And my wife has 3, so 2 from my side and three from hers. But I want my children to be able to approach me about sexuality and about questions and about faith and about
100%.
cruelty and injustice. I want them to ask me those questions. I don't want
Hmm.
them to learn about those things from TikTok.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
want that. Now, TikTok is a tool, great, but I want them to be able to ask me those questions, so
Yeah.
that I can, share my framework with them and teach them how to navigate that. And I see a lot of men in these days, speaking to your statistic, that's more important to them than it used to be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. That's true. Um, Another thing that, comes up in your book are stepdads. Often hear you're not my real dad.
Yeah.
Um, so some people, some dads, I'm sure can relate to that, or even stepkids or stuff. How can a man, stay steady and loving in moments like that when that just like hurts them to their core?
Having the opportunity, and I'm in that position too,
Yeah.
having the opportunity to mentor, foster, take care of children that you know may never look at you as a role model or of any kind.
Hmm.
Um, and every step parent's going to be a little different, but the stepfather is a very different dynamic than the stepmother. And I think there's a lot of validity there in our natural roles of providing versus fostering.
Hmm.
But I think to stepdads, um, there are two. I'm thinking of a couple of different chapters in really the middle section of my book where this starts to become part of my story as becoming a stepdad for the first time. And
Hmm.
what I've had to do is again just focus on pausing and being in the moment, because both of my biological daughters, they're night and day. They're black and white when it comes to similarities and differences. They are not at all the same. And all 3 of Kelly's daughters are the same way. And what I've had to do is really just kind of wade into the pool and not insist on a relationship that may never happen. All of her
Hmm.
daughters were over 17 when we got married. They're all adult
Oh,
children.
wow. Yeah.
And so that dynamic is going to be different than when you've got 5 or 6 year olds. On the flip side of that coin, I remarried when my oldest daughter was 7 years old, and
Hmm.
she immediately bonded to my second wife, calling her mom. And I mean,
Yeah.
it was a mother daughter relationship.
Hmm.
Every relationship is going to be different, and I
Hmm.
think for dads, uh, the ultimate man move or
Yeah.
whatever is, what do I need to be in this moment to serve the child or the person in front of me
Hmm.
to the best of my ability. And
Hmm.
sometimes that means drawing in and protecting and providing. And sometimes it means shutting up and being a little bit more distant and allowing them to dictate what's next.
Yeah. And I'm sure certainly not setting, like these crazy expectations, as
Yeah.
far as what you expect to get out of it right away.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so you also write about maximizing impact during limited time, right? So what advice do you have for dads who only see their kids on the weekends or only like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, attesting to your
Yeah.
co-parenting, you
Some
know.
of the best advice I've ever been given by anybody, I was given by a paralegal that worked for my attorney in my first divorce. And here's what she told me: this, your top priority as a dad is to facilitate time with your daughter.
Hmm.
Make it a priority. If you have 48 hours every other weekend, make it a priority. Intentionally make that a priority. That means you don't just go pick them up and you bring them over and they sit in front of the TV for 2 days. That
Yeah.
means live it up. You have 48 hours of uninterrupted time, and they don't need trips to Disney World every other weekend, but they need to look forward to that time with you. And the more intentional you are, and and again, I'm not talking about those huge trips. Sometimes we did go to Disney World, but take the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to carve for the other 2 weeks, during the week, I have to focus on work and everything else. I've got to take care
Yeah.
of myself, but I'm also going to plan, and I'm going to drop little nuggets of, hey, guess what we're doing? And
Wow.
we're going to have a good time. And when
Hmm.
you have that expectation in your own heart, your child will want to be with you.
Hmm.
And I speak a lot about this I write a lot about this in my book, but I lost custody of a 5 year old when I was an everyday dad. And the judge gave her mother permission to move 600 miles away from me. So
Hmm.
I couldn't uproot. My family was here. I eventually remarried. Her job and
Yeah.
her family was here.
That's good.
We considered moving, but bottom line, we just weren't going to be guaranteed any more time than we already had. And what that was, and what it looked like was I got 48 hours a month on the weekend, once a month,
Hmm.
but I had to travel 600 miles to take advantage of that.
Hmm.
And I prioritized it. My savings was gone. A little retirement that I'd saved was gone. But
Hmm.
for 8.5 years, I'd never missed a visit. I never missed a weekend.
Wow.
And when
That's
she
great.
was in seventh grade, what do you think happened? She said, Dad, I don't want to go to high school down here. I want to move in with you.
Oh my gosh.
So from ninth grade till this day, she still lives in my home.
Oh my
And yeah,
goodness.
that met a lot of legal battles and everything else. But let me tell you, it was the facilitation of the time. It was me prioritizing those 48 hours every
Hmm.
month at the cost of whatever plane tickets are and 20 hours in the car on a weekend every month in order to stay in her life. And the other part of that answer would be um, dads out there, moms out there that are watching this right now. Let me tell you, there is a big difference of making your child a part of your life and making yourself a part of theirs. The
Hmm.
latter is what you need to focus on. When I'm
Yeah.
trying to make myself part of their life, night and day, they
Yeah.
will want more time with you, and that
That's
time's going to
great.
be higher quality.
I love that. And so you also I think you mentioned it a little bit. We've talked about it, but you use the phrase reclaim your fatherhood narrative. So what does it mean for a man who feels like defined by his past failures, and what would you say to him about that?
Emma, I'm not sure there's a man out there that doesn't feel defined by his past failure. I think that's pretty ingrained in our DNA as men.
Hmm.
Most of us will never understand how that past failure is defining our present and our future.
Hmm.
Um, I think that this isn't my quote, but I've heard it a lot. We live two lives: the life we learn with and the life we live with after that.
Hmm.
I think we can all relate to that. For men, for dads specifically, or parents in general, I would say this: um, whatever you can do to, number one, accept who you used to be.
Hmm.
It's not tolerating, it's not continuing, but accept that person, who
Hmm.
you used to be. The more capable you're going to be in that very moment of becoming the person you want to be.
Hmm.
And it's the connection of those two identities, who I used to be and who I am becoming, that was the one missing link for me. And
Hmm.
suppressing the past, suppressing. Let me tell you, there's stories in this book as well as in my new book, which is The Addiction Loop. I tell my story on addiction. It's
Hmm.
raw, it's
Yeah.
vulnerable, it's embarrassing, it's full of stories that some of my family have not heard before.
Oh wow.
No, it's those things that we don't want anybody to know, much less
Yeah.
ourselves. We don't want to think about it anymore. But
Yeah.
the more that I can process who I used to be and come to acceptance of who I used to be, then my dad narrative is wide open and the sky's the limit about the kind of dad that I can be. And I'll
Hmm.
say this again, it's never too late to make the moment you're in matter.
Hmm. Was there a defining moment for you where you realized that? your past failures don't define you.
Yeah, it was through my second divorce.
Okay.
When I recognized that my priority about being a dad, I think, started in the courtroom more than 15 years ago when I lost that custody.
Yeah.
But I still failed another marriage, and I was still struggling with some addiction. And
Mhm.
it was in my second divorce that I realized that my focus on relief in my own way, and I would reach for performance. I would work harder. I would distance myself and those types of things.
Mhm.
And my reach for relief in those moments was causing the environment in which my second wife said, I cannot do this anymore.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it was during that time that it, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Okay, it's happened again. So from an evaluative standpoint, what's the commonality in these two divorces? Well, I'm the one thing that's in common with both of them. So what am I not doing? What am I doing? I don't want to do this. I don't want to make the same mistakes again. I don't want to do this again over and over again. So
Yeah.
it was really just more of an introspective look in the mirror about you know, why I did the things I did and
Mhm.
what I can change about, you know, the pause, the moments, the priorities, the intentionality, and so that moving forward I can be the dad and the man that I really, really need to be and want to be.
Mhm. So for you're in your third marriage now to Kelly, is that her name?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to to couples, men and women that are in a relationship, married, have kids? What is like the biggest advice you have for them to stay grounded and to stay, a team and to navigate, these challenges that come up with parenting and relationship issues and problems in everyday life?
Whoa. Emma, that's a loaded question. Do we have
Sorry.
another hour and a half to talk about that
I
subject?
know. Well,
Um,
yeah. Sorry.
I would say this. Yes, I am a twice divorced dad of daughters. My third marriage. Yes, I'm rivaling Ross on Friends. I'm in my third marriage. um, but I'll tell you the wisdom that that failure times two has given me. I'm really trying to put in a way that can help other men and women not make the same mistakes that I made. And I guess here's how I'd answer your question. Um, each of you, both of you, if you're a woman watching you and your husband, if you're a man watching you and your wife, or just partners, you and your life partner are different people
Mm-hmm.
with different dreams and different paths. My wife and I, Kelly and I, we were post 50 years old when we met. That's a long life before finding your mate, your
Mm-hmm.
match. We had a lot of uh, synchronization difficulty. I mean, just think about two households full of furniture. I mean, that's just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've come to understand is that the work is in me and Kelly, number one, communicating a lot about our individual goals and dreams and path.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, facilitating each other and reaching out for those dreams.
Okay.
I think a lot of couples make a big mistake that now that we're merged, we have to be walking the same path. Like
Okay.
her dreams need to be mine, or she needs to support mine, and all of those things. And it's okay to have different dreams. You're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
You were given different gifts and talents for a reason. We are not the same for a reason. We complement each other, and that also comes with the path that we're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some limit to that. Obviously, you probably wouldn't be with that person if those paths weren't congruent or parallel or had things in common.
Right.
But it's super important, and I'd say it goes along the lines of the same advice that I give in the book is
Yeah.
you know take a pause, um, make the moment matter, listen three times more than you talk, and support each other in whatever it is that you need to give, because it is a
Mm-hmm.
partnership. But I will say this, and this is probably not as popular as a lot of people will, but they say the man is the head of the household. I hate that analogy. I think that I'm in a house with six women, so it's definitely every time I turn around, I come face to face with the importance of equality and the importance of making the person in front of me know that their worth and their value.
Mm-hmm.
And marriage is no different. Yeah, it took me
Mm-hmm.
3 tries to figure that out and learn that.
Mm-hmm.
But facilitating time with each other has to be the most important thing. And I will say it has to be more important than me facilitating time with my kids to be a
Mm-hmm.
better, making me well, let me say it this way. Uh, Learning to become a better husband has made me a better father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leaning into being a better dad has made me a better husband. They're
Mm-hmm.
cyclical.
Yeah. I love that. And so you also describe your book as not just, your story, but as a, roadmap for all single dads out there. Why does this message, matter so much to you?
The message of the book,
Yeah.
um, that's a great question. I struggled a lot after my second divorce. Um, I was raised in a pastor's family. I'm semi active in a local church, but I withdrew. I just and it happened in COVID. Okay, so
Hmm.
2020 is when it got finalized. So there was a great excuse to just pull away and distance. I didn't come out of that. I went inside. I enrolled in programs. I read every book I could get my hands on, personal growth and all of that stuff. I got certified in 3 or 4 different things I always wanted to do, um, but I just withdrew.
Hmm.
I didn't withdraw from my kids. They were the one part of my community that I showed up more for them than even sometimes for myself. But I think that the message that I'm that I see in this book was really my finally giving myself permission to be real and raw and vulnerable with what happened to me, with what
Hmm.
I did versus what was done to me. All of those things in the scope of probably the most important role I've ever had as being a dad. And it took several years to really get to the point where okay, I'm ready to tell that story.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest message is, and you'll probably you read through the book, you read this several places throughout. Um, no one's an expert on your story but you. No one can tell you you did it right or wrong or otherwise. And the important thing to grapple with is to give yourself permission to be exactly where you are.
Hmm.
And again, there's that same theme, pause, make the moment matter. But that starts with within me. And it took me a couple of years to come to grips with, just giving myself permission to let other people into that moment.
Hmm.
Because I knew that once I wrote the story, it'd be kind of late to try to suppress it and keep it in the closet because now it's out there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as many things like this are, writing this book was tremendously therapeutic for me in my
Hmm.
own life, and just getting the story out in that way. But I'd say that's probably the biggest message: is give yourself permission to be exactly where you are, and
Hmm.
see what happens.
Yeah. And what inspired you to write and ultimately publish your book? Had you written, before, or was there just like a defining like
Yeah.
inspiration of like I
Um,
really need to get this out or?
yeah, great question. This is the first book I've published. I'm also a playwright. I've written several long
Oh
form
yeah.
plays.
Okay.
I've been writing most of
Awesome.
my life,
That's awesome.
and this was definitely a dream of mine. I've always wanted to be a published author.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's just snowballing because I just released my second book this month. I'm releasing my third book end of April, beginning of May.
Wow.
And I've
Awesome.
got two more coming and a contract now with a publisher. So it's just snowballing. I've always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
What inspired me for this book, um, again, it's my experience through divorce and the subject. And this book is really about what I discovered in those moments and realizing that fatherhood doesn't fall into this big dramatic explosion. It shifts in small and unguarded moments and even seconds.
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds is all you need to change the trajectory of the day. And some of those trajectory changes can be life changing, especially when we bring in our kids to that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that that pause can become a secret weapon. And that was the inspiration for the book. This book is me handing that weapon to other dads. It's me teaching them how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired the word regret comes to mind, but that's really not true. Um, it was the desire to be better
Mm-hmm.
rather than, and that would have been old me talking. Would be,
Mm-hmm.
I have so much regret about what I did wrong or didn't do right. Today, that same feeling is really just the desire to be better. When I look back at the crisis seasons that I write about, divorce, tension, distance, rebuilding, recovery, I realized that, something very, very humbling, that we have everything we really need to thrive already equipped inside us.
Mm-hmm.
Creating that intentional pause and that secret weapon helps us access that agency. Like in the middle of a heated moment, in the middle of a conversation that could have gone sideways, in the middle of my own ego trip,
Yeah.
knowing that I can now catch myself and choose a different route, that that's 5 seconds that can change a life,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's the secret weapon. I did not invent this at all. I became aware of it and I'm leveraging it. It is
Yeah.
there's a million other people that'll say it a different way, but once they saw it clearly, I knew I needed to share it. And,
Mm-hmm.
because I navigated some of those very same crises so clumsily at times, it's the clumsy, it's the lazy, it's the embarrassing that I write about, which is, helpful. But I learned in real time. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we live. We don't live on a schedule. We live in real time. And
Yeah. True.
if another man can use that same weapon earlier in his experience before he makes some of the same trajectory changing decisions that I did,
Mm-hmm.
then he can navigate the storm of his life better too. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I wrote it.
And so what's been the feedback from dads?
Hmm.
What have some, dads come to you and told you about how your book impacted them?
Yeah. I've got the interesting thing is, to my knowledge, it's like a 65-35 split. 65% of my readers are actually women, which is interesting. Um, but the guys that have come to me all across the board, testimonies like, "Man, I didn't laugh as much. I haven't laughed like that in years." To the opposite, your story on, I write a story about us putting one of our dogs down. He's like, "That story just brought me to tears. I haven't cried in 2 years. Thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
needed that release."
Mm-hmm.
I'll share one that's really personal. My brother-in-law, who is a divorced dad, um, called me after reading it, and he said, "I have been struggling for so long of how to relate to my two daughters in a way they need, in a way that I'm not competing with their mother." And he said,
Mm-hmm.
I finally found that in reading your book.
Oh,
And
wow.
in just 2 weeks, we have just had so much fun together. And his youngest came to him at the end of that second weekend and said, "Daddy, I don't know what's happening to you, but you're like a different person than you were just last week."
Oh my
That
God.
shift is who I wrote this book for,
That's
because
amazing.
that's how fast it can change the trajectory of your parenting relationship with your kids. and
Hmm.
and being that it was my brother-in-law,
That's so
that
special.
that was even that was just the nail on the head for me.
Oh my gosh. How old were they? Do you mind me asking?
His kids,
Yeah.
his kids are 11 and 14.
Tough ages.
Yep.
Wow. That's so nice. Um, so what has been the feedback like from, family and friends or um, you know, just in general, family and friends?
Family and friends, a lot of aha moments. Like I had no idea that you were going through that. I had no idea you were there. Uh, Even some that knew some of these stories, just never, it was really more of an enlightenment um, of we had no idea kind of thing.
Hmm.
I'm one of three. My brother and sister and I are very close. We lost my dad about 25 years ago. My mom lives locally, so she's kind of seen it all.
Yeah.
But
But,
even that nuclear group, it's just it's definitely brought down the barriers between us that were still there and
hmm
help them see a little bit more transparency in
hmm
me.
Yeah. What about your wife? What does she think about your book?
She loves it. Now, she was along for the whole ride, so I read
Yeah.
her chapter after chapter as I was writing it.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
but Kelly's an empath. She's a deep feeler and a deep thinker. She's a yoga teacher, personal trainer, nutritionist. So she's all about health and growth. And every interaction she gave me from a feedback standpoint was in reference to how far I've come and how much I've grown and um, just how proud she is of the dad that I am.
That's
Her
great.
and every situation is a little different. Some dads just honestly, some dads are just not equipped to be in the moment with their kids
Yeah.
for whatever reason. And
Hmm.
if you're out there watching this, you are who you are, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Kelly's kids are in that scenario. So just the privilege of being able to connect with them and be not a stepdad. They call me Tom, and just to develop those relationships with them to be what they need me to be
Yeah.
is it's hard work, but it's definitely been very rewarding. Overall, Kelly just beams. Honestly, she just beams, and she's my biggest fan and my best
Mhm.
review and my most critical feedback, and I'll take it
Oh,
all.
that's the best.
Yeah.
What advice like that could da that dads could have right now? Because we talk about a lot about being in the moment, and that they struggle with that, and in turn that means quality time with your kids and being present. What are like some advice right now that dads can have to be really present with their kids?
I like to go practical on stuff like this. Um, I would say a couple of things. Put your cell phone in the other room when they're in your house. That's going to be
Yeah.
your number one draw and pull and whatever. I would say, and this is hard for me because I love film and I love television.
Yeah.
Um, so it's easy to say, what do you want to watch? And everybody plops down in front of the TV for the next three
True.
hours.
Yeah.
It's harder to gather around the table and play a card game or board
Hmm.
game. Um,
Hmm.
but I will say this one thing that I've tried and we love it. Our whole family digs it is the questions game. And there's a gazillion versions of them, but just go to any game and just look it up, Amazon or wherever, the
Yeah.
questions game. And there's categories and everything else. And we rarely get through the third question when we're doing
Oh
this
my
all
gosh.
together around the table because we're all sharing and we're laughing and we're carrying on and there's a real connection there. And again, that's just
Hmm.
an example of intentionally facilitating that moment. Doesn't have to
Hmm.
happen every time. If you
Yeah.
turn on the TV, you're not a failure.
Right.
If you look at your phone, you're not anti-present. I'm just saying from a standpoint of be intentional about those moments. Don't just react to them. One of the biggest mistakes that a parent can make is have an expectation of what they want to happen and then get upset when it doesn't fall into place when they have no planning that goes into it.
Mm.
When you're not intentional, It ain't going to happen. I say this all the time. If it's not on my schedule, it's not written on my calendar, there's a 99.9% chance that it will not happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So I've got to be intentional with those appointments and times, et cetera. So I need to be intentional with the planning.
Yeah.
The other thing I would recommend, kids love to go out. So find a way to go out. Maybe not a 5-star $100 meal, but let them pick. Hey, this weekend we're going to go out for one meal. Where do you want to go? Make it fun and go
Mm-hmm.
out somewhere. But one or two or three intentional planned things in that 48-hour period of time is going to be the difference between two things: them saying, I cannot wait to get back to mom's, or I can't wait till the next weekend that I can be with dad.
Mm-hmm.
Not a
That's great.
competition. You
Yeah.
make your time special. And I will even say something here that probably isn't very popular. I I also believe very much that it is also my job as a dad to facilitate the relationship between my child and their mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. I'm not with her anymore. I don't love her. There are days I don't like her. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's a heck of a lot of days she doesn't like me either. But my job is to make sure that from my perspective, my
Mm-hmm.
child sees support of their parent from me.
Yeah.
And that's I can't emphasize enough. It feels
Yeah.
good to be right in the moment. It feels good to one up their mother. It feels good. But I'm telling you, moms, dads, whoever's listening to this, the more you can facilitate healthy time and relationship between them and your ex,
That's huge.
the deeper the connection and the development and the trust and all of it they will have with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not the easy way, but
Yeah. Yeah. Um, did you have, what was the most difficult part of your writing process? Did you have a difficult part of your writing process?
um, I think the writing process I think was
Yeah.
pretty easy for me.
Okay.
Um, the owning my own fingerprints on the wound was probably the most difficult. There are parts of the
Mm-hmm.
book where I had to say, it was my bad. That one
Yeah.
was on me. No excuses, no blame stress, no circumstances. Me,
Yeah.
I'm responsible. And that was uncomfortable, but framing that and writing that in a way that the message wouldn't get lost in, you know, the sympathy or, whatever I was trying to communicate by what I did. But,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna tell men to step up, I've got to model that, and that was very difficult to do in a way that would resonate with both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means at many where I didn't show up the way I wanted to. This book is
Mm-hmm.
about being in the moment and showing up, and I'm
Yeah.
writing about some areas where I didn't.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to someone working on, his or her own book?
Um, Write what you know, especially if it's your first book. This is my first published book, but write
Mm-hmm.
what you know. Why? Because you're the expert on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's your story. It's it's something that no one can really scrutinize. They may not like it, but they can't say it's wrong or right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that gives you a raw voice that
Mm-hmm.
once you start writing, it just gets easier and the words come out. The words will
Mm-hmm.
flow. So I'd say stick with what you know.
Okay.
The other thing I'd say is when it comes to publishing, walk softly and slowly and carry a big cautious stick because there's a lot of things out there that you can jump for that may cost you a little bit more money than they need to.
Okay. Right. And what was your writing experience like, or what was your writing routine like? Did you have a writing routine that you like to stick to for your book?
Um, Emma, this is an area I still struggle with because when I get into a project, I get project mode and blinders on, and that's really all I want to do.
Hmm.
I am attached to the hip to Google Calendar. I live in that document, and it's on the calendar, like I mentioned earlier. So
Hmm.
I have to time block. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much what I did. Once I was ready to start writing, and of course there was a whole lot of prep work and outlining and everything, picking the stories I wanted to tell. You know, that was
Hmm.
probably the most time consuming for me, is just going back
Right.
in my memory about
Right.
all of these things. And that was actually a lot of fun, because I brought in everybody in my life to help them trigger my memory. You know, hey,
Oh
remind me of
boy.
this, or what's a story you'd like to, you know, share there, or what's a funny pet story, or whatever. My daughters, my mom, my brother and sister, Kelly, her girls, they were all very, very helpful in that. But once it was time to actually sit down and get it out,
Hmm.
it was a time block. So
Yeah,
just,
that's good.
focusing in on that for the time that I have allotted.
Yeah. And so, well, you mentioned that you have a lot of, books coming up that you've written.
Yeah.
So what are your personal goals for this year and or, book goals for this year that you
Mhm.
have?
I have three books coming out this year, in addition to what's already done. So my goals for books are really more of, clarifying my framework of what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and telling more and more of my story to help other people with theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love the day if book sales paid all of my bills and everything, but that's never been why I write. I write for the man, for the woman that needs something better in their life and needs more reliability in their life. And that
Mm-hmm.
starts within ourselves. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
reliable to me so that
Mm-hmm.
I can be reliable to you, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, why I write. So there's in addition to the books, there's speaking engagements. So I'll be speaking throughout the year about this book or any of the other topics that I write about, and all of that funnels into what I just love. I love what I do, working with men and women to create more reliable momentum in their life, building
Mm-hmm.
systems that are designed for your nervous system, not for a nervous system you weren't given.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about how you reach out to, dads and work with dads? What is that through? Is that through the betterin3.com or is
Yep.
that okay?
Yeah, that's my website, betterin3.com, the number three. Working with us, we've proven that our framework will help you feel better in 3 days, and do better in 3 weeks, and then live better in 3 months. And
Oh,
that's
great.
where Better
Okay.
in Three comes from.
Awesome. And one last question. How does it feel or what does it mean to you to be a girl dad?
How did I
Fine.
know that was coming? Um, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, guys are just
Aw.
like, you don't have any men in your family. Your name's not going to be, carried on. Well, one of my daughters has already said, I'm keeping your name. So I'm like, okay, we're set there. But,
Aw.
um, I'd say this, I know that when I'm old and decrepit and cannot take care of myself, I know I'm going to have someone taking care of me.
Mm-hmm.
I probably couldn't say that if I had five boys. So that's one thing it's like to be a girl dad. But I'll tell you what,
Mm-hmm.
it is a wild ride. Um, guys have a I think men have a terrible perception, a very incorrect perception of what it means to be emotionally available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What we're taught is we need to be able to navigate emotions and be emotional and share emotions. But in my experience, and again, this is just me,
Mm-hmm.
having, again, six women that I live with, um, I think what that means more is that I need to be comfortable with emotion, and
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to create an environment or an emotional climate where it's safe to feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dad's job.
Yeah.
We talk about providing, protecting. It starts with providing that and
Yeah.
protecting it at all costs. Because if you have guys or boys or girls in a family, if they feel safe to feel in
Mm-hmm.
that home, I think that's 90% of what's wrong with kids as we grow up.
Yeah.
And it's that I just don't feel safe to feel. I said
Yeah.
this early on that I want my kids coming to me when they want to learn something. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that if they don't feel emotionally safe.
Yeah. Or
I
they're,
want,
yeah, if they're
yeah,
scared or,
I want
yeah.
Kelly to be able to come to me when she needs help.
Yeah.
She's not going to be able to do that if she doesn't feel emotionally safe.
Mm-hmm.
When I've screwed up and she needs to be able to come to me and hold me accountable for that, she will not touch that with a 10-foot pole if
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't feel emotionally safe. So being
Mm-hmm.
a girl dad,
Absolutely.
it comes with a whole lot, a whole big skill set and a whole big opportunity for lots of things, from sitting for hours and reading books together to getting my toenails painted and having, you know, pink toenails for 4 months, to tea parties and the like. And, you know, hey, daddy, I got to try this makeup, and you're it. Emma actually, when she was little, I rarely, I have a very sensitive skin, so I rarely ever clean shave. I usually wear a short beard, and she
Mm-hmm.
clean shaved me so she could put some makeup on. And of course, I broke out terrible, and she burst into tears, and it was just this
Oh,
whole big get up. But I knew that was going to happen, but
yeah.
you still got to sit. You got to do
You
it.
gotta do it anyways. Oh, that's the
So
best.
I'm the experiment laboratory of whatever they want to try. And that's definitely different with boys than it will be with
Yeah,
girls.
that's great. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have today. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before you go? I know you mentioned that website.
Yeah, I mean, this is that's the main website. If anybody
Okay.
wants information, the books that I have are available there. You can learn more about them. You can learn more about us and what we do. And there's lots of other information. We have a lot of free training and free diagnostics on that site. So if you're and just so you know, I mean, we work with people that are exhausted and they're masking. They're promising 100%, but they only have 28% to give. We've
Mm-hmm.
got to turn that table around, and helping people create more energy and really, you know, create systems that they can get through their day so
Mm.
that they don't crash by 3 p.m. and have nothing left for the kids and the spouse and the family that they're working so hard to serve
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
provide
true.
for. So that's what we do. You know, so if you're
Okay.
interested in why you're crashing at the end of, you know, 2 or 3 p.m. and you're wondering why you're irritable, you're wondering why, you know, you spend most of your weekends recovering and getting ready for next week,
Oh, yeah.
it's not laziness. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you. It's that your body learned what worked and what doesn't, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got to fix that.
Yeah.
And it's a systematic and mechanical loop that's likely running under the surface, and you don't even know it's there. So
Mm-hmm.
we help
All
you
right.
through a lot of our free resources be able to identify those loops, and then what we do, you know, all day long is help you retrain them.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for
Yeah.
joining me today. It's been a pleasure, meeting you and talking to you about your book. And I wish you the best of luck with your publishing career and this book. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Emma. It's been an
Yeah.
honor. Been great getting
Oh,
to
thank
know
you.
you, and thanks so
You
much for
too.
the opportunity to share.
Yeah, of course. And if you're listening, then you can purchase Thomas's book at balboapress.com. And you can find it through the online bookstore, or it's available on Amazon and Barnes Noble. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.